My wife kicked me out of our $5 million mansion like I was some cheating scumbag, all because her lying sister faked a bunch of screenshots. She didn't even let me explain. No questions, no hesitation, just pure, cold dismissal. One moment, I was sipping espresso in my robe, and the next I was standing in the driveway, barefoot, holding a trash bag full of clothes while she screamed at me to get off her property. The gates closed behind me like a prison door, and just like that, 10 years of marriage were wiped out by one snake in lipstick that I know, you're thinking, there's got to be more to this. And you're right, because 3 weeks later, when she thought she could come crawling back with her CEO arrogance and that fake forgiveness smile, I handed her divorce papers so brutal they dismantled her business, destroyed her reputation, and helped put her sister in a jail cell that if you're into real, raw revenge stories, the kind that hit hard and end even harder, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what comes next. But let's rewind for a second. My name's Nate. I'm 37, and up until that night, I thought I had it all. A stunning, successful wife who made more money than we could ever spend. A beautiful home, a lifestyle most people would kill for. But none of it came easy, and definitely not for her that we met in college. She was driven, laser-focused, the kind of woman who skipped parties to finish her business plans. I was the laid-back marketing guy who could charm a crowd and pitch a brand like nobody else. We clicked hard. Within a year, we were inseparable. While everyone else was messing around, we were building something. When she got her first investor, I dropped everything, my job, my apartment, my social life, to help her build her startup. I did the branding, the pitch decks, ran her socials, pulled strings with my contacts. I wasn't just the supportive boyfriend. I was the engine behind the image. She was the product, but I was the packaging. And packaging sells that we got married young, 25. Signed a prenup because she was already climbing fast, and her dad insisted on it. I didn't care. I believed in her. I believed in us. Fast forward a decade, and she's the CEO of a health tech company worth tens of millions. We've got the mansion, the Range Rover, the designer dogs. But with all that success came pressure, attention, and poison. And her sister? Madison. She was the venom. Madison always had it out for me. She played nice for the photos, but the moment my wife turned her back, she'd throw shade, flirt with me weirdly, and make snide comments about how I lucked out marrying into money. I kept my distance, but I always knew she was trouble. Then came the screenshots, fake texts, doctored photos. Some anonymous account DM'd my wife with what looked like proof I'd been cheating with a woman named Lana. Half-nude pics, dirty messages, time-stamped receipts. All of it manufactured with scary precision that I later found out Madison used some AI app to clone my writing style, mixed in old selfies, and even staged a fake hotel reservation in my name. It was elaborate, sick, and psychotic, but none of that mattered when my wife saw it. She went nuclear, screaming, crying, throwing things. She didn't ask, didn't show me, just told me to get out. She called security on me, like I was some intruder in my own damn house, in Oak Court. No conversation, just exile. I crashed in a motel off the highway, the kind where the sheets smell like bleach and regret. My phone blew up, not with support, but with judgment. Her friends blocked me. My own parents said they were disappointed. I was branded, guilty without a trial. And while I sat there, in that crappy room, listening to the hum of the ice machine outside my door, I started to think, not about getting her back. Oh no, I started thinking about getting even. She threw me away like garbage. Now it was time to show her what a mistake that was. I spent the first week in that dingy motel bouncing between rage and depression. Every time I thought about her, face twisted with disgust, calling me a liar and a cheater without even letting me explain. I wanted to smash something. But when the rage burned off, I was left with silence and that gnawing, empty question. Asterisk, how the hell did I get here? Asterisk, so let me take you back. Because this wasn't some random, overnight betrayal. No, the seeds had been planted years ago. Like I said, my wife was ambitious. She wasn't born with a silver spoon, but by the time we met, she was polishing. 1. Her father was loaded from real estate, and while he spoiled her with connections, he was stingy with actual cash. He wanted her to earn it, and she did, but not without help. My help in those early years, I was her shadow. Late nights, ramen dinners, brainstorming over cheap wine. She built her first pitch deck on my laptop. I maxed out 2 credit cards so she could launch her prototype. When she had meetings with big names, I was the one coaching her, running mock interviews, cleaning up her slides. She got the handshakes, but I did the heavy lifting nobody saw. Now, don't get me wrong. She was smart, brilliant even. She deserved her success. But the truth is, we were a team. At least, I thought we were. Her sister Madison? Total opposite. Spoiled, lazy, entitled. Daddy's favorite. She burned through money, hopped from boyfriend to boyfriend, and still acted like she was better than everyone. Every time she looked at me, it was like she saw a stray dog that wandered into her fancy country club. And here's the thing, Madison hated that I stuck around. She thought I was beneath them, some freeloading marketer riding on her sister's coattails. But deep down, I think what really drove her crazy was that I didn't need her approval. I didn't kiss her ass like every other guy she met. And for people like Madison, that's unforgivable. She'd try little digs at first. At family dinners, she'd joke that I was just the house husband. When I helped out with campaigns, she'd claim I was just doing busy work. My wife usually brushed it off, but I could see it. Every insult she tossed was like a seed planted in the back of my wife's mind. Is Nate really pulling his weight? Or is he just tagging along? But I ignored it. Because when you're in love, you ignore the cracks. Years passed. My wife's company blew up. Investors lined up, Forbes wrote about her, and the house we lived in was the kind you only see on Netflix shows about billionaires. From the outside, we were the perfect power couple. But on the inside, I was slowly being erased at tea parties. I went from the guy who helped build the brand to the husband. Just that. No name, no identity. The plus one. The background character. And every time Madison was there, she made sure I felt it. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a charity gala. My wife was being honored, cameras everywhere. Champagne flowing. Madison showed up in this blood-red dress like she was trying to outshine her sister on purpose. Halfway through the night, I caught her whispering to my wife. They both glanced at me across the room, and my wife's smile faltered. My gut twisted. Something was coming. 2 days later, the screenshots arrived. They were perfect, too perfect. Dirty texts that matched my tone, selfies that looked like they were taken in my own damn bathroom, a hotel reservation under my name. My wife lost it. Madison comforted her, of course, acting like the loyal sister. And just like that, the cracks Madison had been carving for years split wide open. My wife didn't even confront me. She didn't ask once. She just decided I was guilty. And with Madison's poison dripping in her ear, she slammed the door shut on everything we built. That night, sitting on that motel bed, I realized something that flipped the switch in my brain. Madison wasn't just attacking me. She was attacking my life's work, my marriage, my reputation, my role in everything we built. Gone, because she wanted me out of the picture. And if my wife was stupid enough to fall for it, fine. She could go down with her sister. That was the night I stopped being the victim and started planning revenge. That night in the motel was the last time I allowed myself to cry over her. After that, I wasn't a husband anymore. I wasn't the betrayed man. I was the storm they never saw coming that I knew I couldn't just throw a tantrum and burn everything down. That would make me look weak, desperate. If I wanted to take back control, I needed to be smart, calculated, surgical. So I started small. First, I called an old buddy from college, a guy who now worked as a private investigator. I told him everything. The fake screenshots, Madison's obsession, the way my wife tossed me out without a word. He listened, then chuckled darkly and said, "Nate, you're about to have some fun. Send me every detail you've got." Within a week, he handed me a file thicker than a Bible. Turns out Madison wasn't just cruel. She was reckless. She had gambling debts, a shady boyfriend who was laundering money, and worst of all, she'd been siphoning funds from my wife's company behind her back. My PI even caught her meeting with one of the competitors, trying to sell insider information, gold. Pure gold, but I didn't rush to use it. Oh no, revenge isn't about speed. It's about timing. Next, I contacted a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the type of bloodhound who smiles when he smells a prenup. And believe me, he found plenty of weak spots. See, my wife's father had insisted on the prenup years ago, but he hadn't expected me to be the one propping her up at the beginning. All my work, my financial sacrifices, The way I helped build her image, that counted. And in the eyes of the law, that prenup wasn't bulletproof anymore. Meanwhile, I kept quiet. I didn't text her, didn't beg for her attention. I wanted her to sit in her glass palace, sipping wine, convinced I was broken and lost. Because the longer she believed that, the sweeter it would be when she realized the truth. Then came the message point 3 weeks after she kicked me out. She texted like nothing had happened. Have you thought things through? Maybe we can talk. Like I was some naughty kid being given a second chance. I could almost hear Madison smirking behind the phone. That was my moment that we agreed to meet at a cafe. She showed up in her designer coat, heels clicking, sunglasses like she was about to give a TED talk. She sat down across from me, smug as ever, and said, "So, are you ready to apologize?" I smiled, reached into my bag, and slid the divorce papers across the table. Her face drained of color. That CEO confidence melted in seconds. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your second chance," I said. "But not for me. For you. To save face. Sign it quietly, and maybe nobody has to know what your dear sister's been up to." Her hands trembled, and for the first time in years, I felt the balance shift. This was just the beginning. She didn't sign the papers at the cafe. Of course she didn't. My wife had spent years building this image of herself as untouchable, a CEO, a self-made powerhouse. Signing those papers in public would have been like admitting defeat. No, she left them sitting on the table, her manicured fingers trembling as she slid them back toward me. "I'm not doing this," she hissed. "You'll regret even trying." I leaned back, calm as hell, and sipped my coffee. "Funny thing about regret," I said. "Yours hasn't even started yet." She stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor. Heads turned as she shoved open the door. She still thought she had control. She still thought Madison could protect her. But by the time she realized what was really happening, it would already be too late. The next morning, my lawyer and I made our first official move. A formal request for financial disclosures. Simple, routine, but powerful. Because I knew what was buried in those numbers. Madison had been dipping into company funds for months, covering gambling losses and feeding her shady boyfriend's schemes. If those records hit the light of day, Madison wouldn't just face embarrassment. She'd face charges that I didn't call my wife. I didn't warn her. I let the silence eat at her. Because silence from someone you think you control? That's louder than any threat. That be why the end of the week, she broke. She showed up at the motel in a luxury SUV, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She stepped into my crappy little room like she'd just walked into a crime scene. Her perfume clashed with the smell of bleach and stale cigarettes. "This is pathetic, Nate," she said. "Living like this. You think you're hurting me? You're only humiliating yourself." I smiled. I'd been waiting for this. "No," I said. "You haven't figured it out yet, have you? This isn't about me. This is about you." And Madison. Her face stiffened at her sister's name. For the first time, a crack appeared. I pulled a small recorder from my nightstand, pressed play, and let Madison's voice fill the room. Drunken, angry, bragging about how she framed that idiot and how my wife was so easy to manipulate. The color drained from her face. Where did you get that?" she stammered. "Let's just say you should have picked a smarter snake," I said. "And trust me, this is just the beginning." She left without another word, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. But I knew she was rattled now. For the first time, she was afraid. And fear? Fear was my new weapon. 2 days after I played that recording for her, the first cracks in her empire started to show. My lawyer filed motions that forced her company's books under review. On paper, it looked routine, part of the divorce process. But behind the scenes, it was a grenade with the pin pulled. Because those books weren't clean. Not even close. Madison had been sloppy. Wire transfers at 3 a.m., huge consulting fees to fake vendors, company funds funneling into Vegas casinos. My lawyer grinned as he laid it all out for me. "This isn't divorce court anymore, Nate. This is financial warfare." I didn't respond. I just sat there picturing her face when she realized her sister had been bleeding her dry while convincing her I was the parasite. Meanwhile, I stayed low. No big confrontations. No shouting matches. Just quiet, methodical moves. I wanted her to feel that paranoia, the constant dread that every phone call was another problem, every email another fire to put out. And it worked up by the end of the week. whispers started circulating among her investors. A contact of mine, someone who owed me a favor, accidentally leaked a hint that something in her financials didn't add up. Suddenly, the board wanted answers. Suddenly, her Golden Girl reputation wasn't so shiny. That same night, I got a text from Madison. Not my wife. Madison, we need to talk. Alone. Don't tell her. Oh, I almost laughed. The arrogance of it. She still thought she could play me like some chess piece that we met in the parking garage of a downtown hotel. She was chain-smoking, pacing in heels too tall for her to walk in properly. The moment she saw me, she launched into it. You need to stop this, Nate. You think you're clever? You're not. You're dragging the family name through the mud. And for what? Some petty revenge. I didn't answer. I just let her rant. She kept going, faster, louder, until finally she said the words I'd been waiting for. Fine. Yes, I set you up, okay? I made those screenshots. She was never supposed to kick you out. Just scare you. Maybe make you sign some papers. But you wouldn't roll over. Click. The recorder in my pocket captured every syllable. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, turned, and walked away while she screamed after me. Because now I had the nail for her coffin. Be why the time part 6 of this story kicked off. My wife's empire was already wobbling. She just didn't know how close it was to collapse. The whispers among her investors weren't whispers anymore. They were phone calls, meetings, and uncomfortable questions she couldn't answer. Numbers didn't lie, and the numbers painted a picture of fraud. Madison had been bleeding the company dry, and now the whole board smelled blood in the water. I wasn't in the room when it happened, but my contact filled me in. During a board meeting, one of the investors slammed a binder down on the table and said, "We need to know where the money is going." My wife tried to keep her cool, brushing it off as accounting errors. But then another investor leaned in and said, "Funny how all these errors benefit your sister." That was the first time she couldn't hide it. Her mask cracked. Meanwhile, I was living quietly, almost invisibly. No social media, no public appearances, just the guy in the background pulling strings. And every move I made was another weight on her shoulders. I sent a package to one of her biggest investors, anonymously, of course. Inside, a copy of Madison's late-night gambling transfers, along with a little note that said, "Do you trust where your money's going?" A week later, headlines started popping up. Business blogs, finance news outlets, all running with the same story. Questions arise about CEO's family finances. It wasn't a full-blown scandal yet, but it was enough to make people nervous. Enough to make the cracks visible from the outside. That night, I got another text from my wife. Not cold, not superior, desperate. "Nate, please, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand." Oh, how the tables had turned. 3 weeks ago, she tossed me out like trash. Now she was the one begging for a meeting. I didn't reply. Not yet. Let her stew. Let her wonder how much I knew, how much I was capable of. Because the truth? She hadn't seen anything yet. And Madison was unraveling faster than I expected. My PI sent me footage of her screaming at casino staff after losing big, waving a platinum card like it was a weapon. She wasn't just reckless anymore. She was radioactive. Every empire falls the same way, slowly, then all at once. And I could see hers trembling, ready to collapse. I just had to give it one final push. Madison couldn't handle pressure. She thrived on manipulation, on control, but the moment things started slipping, she spun out. And now, with investors circling like sharks and the press sniffing at her sister's empire, Madison decided to come straight at me. It was a Tuesday night when I found her waiting outside the motel. Not in some flashy car, not dolled up like usual. She looked rough, hair messy, makeup smudged, pacing like a junkie waiting for a fix. The moment I stepped out, she lunged at me. "You need to stop this, Nate," she shouted. "You think you're clever, but you're just destroying everything. You'll go down with us." I didn't flinch, just leaned against my car and crossed my arms. "You sound nervous, Madison. Is that guilt or fear?" She looked around, paranoid. Then she dropped her voice. "All right, listen. Maybe we can make a deal. You keep your mouth shut, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Money, property, whatever you want." I let her talk. Let her dig deeper. She went on about how family matters should stay private, and how if I really loved my wife, I'd walk away quietly. And then, the kicker: "If you don't, Nate, People get hurt. Accidents happen. You wouldn't want that, would you? Threats. She'd gone from smug to desperate to dangerous in less than 5 minutes. Click. The recorder in my pocket captured it all. Her bribery, her threats, her confession that she knew everything would blow up if I didn't back off. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You just buried yourself, Madison. And you don't even know it. Her face twisted in rage. You'll regret this, she screamed, loud enough for the motel manager to peek out the office window. Madison stormed off, heels echoing like gunshots against the pavement. I stood there smiling, the recorder warm in my pocket. Because now, I didn't just have leverage. I had a weapon, and when I chose to use it, the whole damn empire would burn up. Why now? I wasn't just holding cards. I had the whole damn deck. Madison's threats, her confessions, the gambling records, the shady wire transfers, it was enough to bury her 10 times over. But I didn't want just Madison to fall. I wanted the world to see my wife for who she really was. A blind, arrogant CEO who trusted the wrong person and destroyed her own empire. The courtroom was coming. And I was ready. My lawyer filed the official petition. Divorce, full financial. Disclosure, spousal compensation. That prenup? Shredded. Every loophole exposed. The judge agreed to review all early contributions, which meant my years of sacrifice, my credit cards, my work building her brand. It all counted now. Meanwhile, my PI gathered everything on Madison. Every dirty transfer, every shady contact, every late-night meltdown. We organized it into a neat little timeline with receipts, bank statements, recordings, and photos. I didn't just have evidence. I had a damn documentary. But the Real kill shot? The recording of Madison threatening me. That wasn't just proof of her crimes. It was character assassination. The kind that would nuke my wife's credibility if she tried to defend her sister. The night before the hearing, my wife showed up again. Not at the motel this time. She sent a car to pick me up. A black SUV with tinted windows. When I stepped inside, she was sitting there, sunglasses off, mascara streaked down her face. For once, she didn't look like a CEO. She looked like a woman drowning. Nate, please, she whispered. Don't do this. Whatever you think. You're proving it won't bring us back. I almost laughed. Bring us back? You tossed me out like trash without a word. You let your sister poison everything. And now you're scared because you know the truth is about to come out. Her lip trembled. We can fix this. Quietly. No court. No press. I'll make sure you're comfortable. Bribes. Always bribes. Just like her sister. I leaned in close so she could feel every word. The difference between you and me is simple. You thought you could buy loyalty. But I don't want your money. I want the world to see what you really are. She broke then. Tears spilling, hands shaking. For the first time since this began, I saw her for what she really was. Not powerful, not untouchable, just scared. But pity? Pity wasn't in my vocabulary anymore. The next morning, I walked into that courthouse with my lawyer at my side. Files stacked high, and one thought in my mind. Today is the day everything changes. The courthouse was packed. Investors, reporters, even a few employees from her company showed up just to watch the golden couple implode. My wife walked in first, head high. Designer suit sharp as a blade, trying to look unshaken. Madison trailed behind her like a shadow. Oversized sunglasses hiding bloodshot eyes. I walked in last. No fancy suit, no entourage, just me and my lawyer. But the moment I stepped inside, all eyes turned. And I felt it. The power had shifted. The proceedings began. My wife's lawyer opened with the same tired speech. Mr. Nate contributed little to the marriage. The prenup protects our client's rightful assets. This is nothing but an attempt to exploit her success. I didn't even flinch. My lawyer stood up, calm as ice, and dropped a stack of binders on the desk. Your Honor, he said, we have proof that not only did my client contribute to this empire, but that the empire itself has been compromised by criminal behavior within the family. We asked the court to review our evidence. And then, the show began. Bank transfers, emails, Madison's casino slips, photos of meetings with competitors. Every page another dagger. My wife's face paled, her hands clutching the table. Madison whispered frantically to her, but the judge silenced them with a bang of the gavel. Then came the recording. The courtroom speakers crackled, and Madison's voice filled the air. Fine. Yes, I set him up. I made those screenshots. If you don't, Stop, people get hurt. Accidents happen. Gasps erupted across the room. My wife buried her face in her hands. Madison shot to her feet, screaming, "That's fake. He's lying." But the judge's eyes were cold steel. "Sit down, Ms. Madison," he said, "or I will hold you in contempt." The press was already scribbling, cameras snapping. The story wasn't just about a divorce anymore. It was about corruption, fraud, threats, a family empire rotting from the inside. My wife broke then. She leaned toward her lawyer, whispering desperately, tears streaming down her face. Madison sat frozen, her mask finally gone, just a scared, reckless little girl caught in her own trap. And me? I just sat there, calm, collected, watching everything collapse exactly as I planned. By the end of the day, the judge shredded the prenup, granted me compensation, and ordered a full financial investigation into Madison. She wasn't walking out free. She was walking into handcuffs. The empire fell in one afternoon. When the gavel fell that afternoon, it wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the end of a whole chapter of my life. My wife lost everything she thought made her untouchable. The investors pulled out. The press tore her apart. Her so-called empire crumbled in weeks, leaving her with nothing but the ashes of her pride. And Madison? She didn't walk out of the courthouse. She was escorted out, in handcuffs, screaming, cameras flashing in her face. For the first time in months, I felt free. The settlement gave me more than enough to start over. I didn't blow it on cars or mansions. No, I used it to build something of my own. A small but growing marketing firm where I was finally the one in charge. No more shadows. No more being erased. That I moved to a new city. Bought a loft. Started running again, reading again, living again. And slowly, I realized I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. One evening, months later, I sat on my balcony with a glass of bourbon, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Just one line. "Do you ever think about us?" It was her. I stared at it for a long moment, then turned the phone face down. No reply, because I'd already answered that question 100 times in my head. No, not anymore. Now I've got peace. I've got freedom. And best of all, I've got the satisfaction of knowing I didn't just let them destroy me. I turned their poison back on them and walked away stronger. But let me ask you, did I do the right thing? Was I too harsh or not harsh enough? What would you have done in my place? If you enjoyed this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what you think. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next story.